Hey guys, welcome to the channel. I'm Peter. Today I'm going to share with you my gun setup for hunting white sea bass. The lobster season has come to a close, weather's getting nice, water's still cold and murky, so it's time to start looking for some white sea bass out there. I was actually getting my gun and my gear ready to go start searching, and I thought I'd make a video. I've been getting questions about what do I use and how is mine set up, so I thought I'd share it with you. But here's the caveat. I'm certainly no professional. I've been doing this for a while. I've had some success, and I'm just going to share with you what works for me. And you ultimately have to find what works for you. So just know that your results may vary. So with that, let's just get started. So this is my white sea bass gun. This is also my yellowtail gun, my mahi gun, and my very small tuna gun. This is a Bleutec King Cobra 120. It's got 3 bands. It's a nice carbon fiber gun, so it's really nice and stiff. I'm running a Mori 5/16 shaft and a Mori Spectra slip tip. I like to use a slip tip just because you can use a floppered shaft, but I always worry that if you don't get a really good shot, the leverage of a flopper in the shaft can rip the delicate meat of a white sea bass out pretty easily. So I've had good success with the slip tip, so that's when I run. And I run that for pretty much everything for this gun. You can see that there's a reel on here, and I have my trusty custom camera mount. And you can see I'm running mono on here. This is a really bright yellow mono, which I really like, because after a shot in the murky water, it's easy to follow a bright line to your fish. Now, I'm running mono just because that's how I've always done it. Some people run Spectra, which I think is probably a good idea, and I might actually try that on my next trip to Baja on my other gun, because the terrain in Baja is rockier and more jagged rocks, so there's probably more likelihood of cutting mono. But with 300-pound and 400-pound mono that I use down there, I haven't had a problem. So knock on wood, probably because I didn't shoot a big enough fish to stress it out. But again, I haven't had any problems with it. I do like it that it is cuttable. In the event you get wrapped up or in any emergency, you can cut it. So again, I'll probably try Spectra. You notice this is not a roller, so I don't have anything against rollers. I actually haven't even tried a roller. But the reason I'm sticking with this gun and not trying a roller is I'm so afraid to mess up my shot. I've had this gun for about 5 years, and this was the culmination of a long search of different guns. I've tried all kinds of guns. And I wanted to continue to improve my accuracy. And the easiest thing is to blame the gun, but likely it was me too. But in part of that search, I did find this gun, and when I test shot it, it was accurate right away for me. It fit my style of shooting, and I've improved that style and evolved it. And I've actually made another video. You could probably find that one on shooting a spear gun. And as a result, this thing has slayed a lot of different fish, and I've become very accurate and consistent, which I think is the key to success in spearfishing. So whatever gun you use and you're accurate with it, that's the best gun to use. So for me, it's this, again, Bleutec King Cobra. This thing is awesome. Love this gun. I actually have the Oceanborn 145 that I use for my big blue water hunting. So that thing has slayed some big fish as well. Again, carbon fiber, super stiff. I think that's part of the secret of this being so accurate. It's basically a laser. So yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I'm sticking with this. So then the big question is, all right, Peter, how are you set up for white sea bass hunting? Are you the float line guy? Are you shooting with a reel? So that's like a constant debate, and you can go back and forth. But I'll share with you, I started hunting with a float line. And I would go white sea bass hunting with a float line. I'd get like a big 100, 125 foot float line, and it would be set up as a breakaway, and I'd be swimming and searching. And it worked fine. But I had some challenges that I didn't like. Primarily, and many of you probably can relate to this, is ultimately my float line would get caught in the kelp. and I might be mid-column or at the bottom, and as I'm going, suddenly I can't make any forward progress, and I've got to tug and yank, and it kind of ruins the whole, Zen state. I got to come up for air, and I'm probably making more noise than I need to make. So I tried different things, like I would have like a kelp carrot on the end of it, and that worked pretty good as a visual, so that with a long float line, you can be seen by boats for the most part. Your dive buddies know where you are, and then you have this as a little anchor and a little sign. But inevitably, the lip on this thing is bigger than the actual float line, and even though I would put tape to try and minimize that little step, it would still get caught. So after a while, that doesn't work. Then I did switch over to this. This is again, it's snake float. This thing is awesome. This thing is bright, so more visibility, never a bad thing. It tends to slide through the kelp really easily. It doesn't seem to get caught. And it's also, because it's a little larger, it's a nice little last-minute hold if you had to fight a big fish. So I use this now. So in heavy kelp, it was still a problem, even with that snake float, that it would still get caught from time to time because there's so much float line out. So then, on really thick kelp, I started hunting with just a reel. And that was awesome. So with a reel, there's nothing holding me back. I'm slipping and sliding through the kelp quietly, as relaxed as can be, at any depth I wanted. I didn't have to worry about, something snagging. However, I did run into a couple of snags. I was in a situation where it was a pretty hot fish, and he took off running, and he almost spooled me. And then it was really thick kelp, so I'm getting face washed. And at one part, I was kind of afraid I need to let go of the gun, but I can't let go of the gun because if I let go, it's gone. And so that wasn't ideal either. Spoiler alert, everything was fine. I got that fish and got everything back. But it made me think that when I'm diving without anything other than a reel, I can't be seen by my dive buddies. I can't be seen by boats. It's a little bit more risky. So now, typically, I run a hybrid system. I will run like a short float, this 50-foot line. And actually, I run shorter, depending the depth I'm diving. So let's say if I know the area is only 50 feet deep, I might run this 50, maybe a little longer. If it's deeper, I'll run maybe a 75, like I have here. I've got all the lengths. Also, I like it nice and bright. White is nice and bright, so again, I can be seen by boats and buddies, as well as follow the line too if you're shooting a fish and you have to find it in the murk. So I will attach that float line to my gun. Not as a breakaway, but just to my gun as a static line that I'm towing. So that in the event of getting spooled while I'm still underwater and needing to come up, I can let go of my gun and hold on to my float line and get to the surface for air. Same as if you take a shot with a reel and it locks up because it gets tangled, which can happen. Again, I can not just let go of the gun and say bye-bye, I can hold on to the float line and head to the surface and sort it out from there. So again, I run this hybrid system so that I get kind of the best of both worlds. I run the shortest float line I can get away with so that there's less tangle. I use that snake float, or I don't put anything at all, but typically I do use a snake float. I take off the extra clips so that this is as smooth and streamlined as possible, so that as I'm going through the water, this does not snag. And it's worked pretty good. Now, I will say that it's always going to depend on the situation, the environment. If it's really thick, that's how I'll run it. Now, let's say, for example, it's thin. There's not as much kelp, maybe like as it is this year. I'm going to consider just running a float line breakaway. I haven't quite decided, to be honest with you. I get the best of both worlds where you get some visibility, but then if you're running a breakaway float line, it kind of needs to be a long enough float line in case that fish runs really hard, really long. I don't just lose the float line as well. So jury's still out what I'm going to do this season. I'm probably going to try it my traditional hybrid way first, and then if I like how it's happening, I'll continue. If I don't, I'll change it. But having that flexibility is really helpful. One thing I also wanted to mention to you that I alluded to is reels can get tangled and locked up. They can jam. And the best way to avoid that jam that I have found is I will take the line, most of the line off this spool, and re-spool it tight and orderly so that there's no crisscrossing and tangled mess like you have here. And re-spool it nice and tight, like I said, so that this thing can shoot off line, nicely. And at the same time, you do have to check your reel and make sure everything's nice and tight and operating correctly. But that way, you are adding a little bit more maintenance, but you're going to have a higher likelihood of your reel working correctly. So I think that's really important. I mean, for me, it makes sense. If I'm really just going after one white sea bass, I just need this to work well once, and I can restring it the next time I go out. That's how I run my spear gun for white sea bass. I hope this information was helpful. Um, Hopefully, maybe some of this you can adopt and give it a shot. And if it works, fantastic. Let me know in the comments if it works for you. Let me know if you do it the same way. And let me know if maybe you think I'm doing it wrong and you have a better way of doing it. I'm always up for learning a better way. Spearfishing is such a journey. There's always something to learn. I've been doing this for a while, but it never ceases to amaze me how much we learn and improve as technology, technique, all progress forward. So I'm all for it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. Everyone dive safe. Wish me luck. I'm going to wish you guys luck. And hopefully I'll be able to post a white sea bass video sometime in the near future. All right. Until then, take care. See you next time. Oh, by the way, I do most of my spearfishing gear shopping at Spear America. My local shop here is super knowledgeable. They're great. They take care of their customers, and they have everything. That's where I got my Bleutec spear gun from, my Rife, a bunch of other gear. So if you want to order something from them online, you can use my coupon code and get 10% off. It's Spear with X 10. I'll put it in the description below. And if you look at my other videos, I usually list the gear that I use, most of which I got from Spear America. So again, use the coupon code, get 10% off, Spear with X 10. I hope that helps.